Let's talk people pleasing. If you are a people pleaser, then this video is for you. Now, I want to give a little bit of a different spin on people pleasing. I want us to understand that our behaviors, how we act in the present moment, how we behave, how we think, our belief systems, what's important to us, even our values, who we are in the present moment, so much of it is determined by who we've been. But let me elaborate on that. It needn't always be like that. So during our developmental years, during our childhood namely, we pick up ways of being. We pick up behaviors and patterns, habits if you like, that determine how we see the world, how we feel about ourselves, how we move through the world, how we perceive ourselves, how we deal with conflict, how we deal with difficulty, how we deal with pain, whether we're aggressive in life, whether we go forward in life with ease, or we take a lot of risk, or whether we pull back a lot. We notice these personality types or these personality structures so much, so forth, that come out in us as adults. And so unless we observe our patterns, unless we observe our coping strategies, our compensatory strategies, the strategies that we developed as children during our developmental years to help us survive and even thrive, to help keep us safe, unless we look at them as adults and say, are they serving me in my relationships? And one of the ways that we identify these coping strategies is looking at the patterns, the repetitive patterns in our lives, and looking at us as the common denominator, particularly in intimate relationships, relationships that really matter to us, relationships that we're really invested in. And looking at these relationships and saying, how am I continuously or consistently behaving? Now, let me go back to people pleasing. There are various reasons why we people please. One of the core reasons is because we don't believe in ourselves enough. We lack worth, or we think we lack worth. Or we don't perceive ourselves to be worthy enough. So we maximize the needs of others, we prioritize others, and we minimize ourselves. We put ourselves last or second, and we consistently do this. Now, we may do this because when we were younger, we weren't reinforced positively. Maybe when we were younger, we were told very overtly, very directly, you're not good enough, you're not wanted. We were rejected often, or maybe even abandoned often. And we discovered that one of the ways that we feel better about ourselves is if we people please, if we please others, if we really make others' needs more important than ours, or even if we amplify the needs of others. And that maybe was a really healthy, I don't think it was healthy, but maybe it was a very productive coping strategy back then. And in the now as an adult, not so much. Are you really getting what you want? Are you fully expressed in relationship? Are you setting healthy boundaries? Are you self-honoring? In other words, are you getting what you need, but are you also keeping yourself safe in a healthy way? Are you attracting the experiences that you actually desire in your world? Now, I was working with a client this morning, and we were speaking to people pleasing, and she grew up in a very volatile environment. She grew up with a father that was very emotionally abusive and very hard on her, and at the same time, deeply expressive and very loving. I personally grew up in a very similar situation where I would experience love and affection and care from my father, sometimes in the form of gifts, sometimes in the form of helping me as a child progress, but there was also a lot of physical violence and emotional abuse and abandonment and suppression of voice and judgment and critique. And so it was very confusing. And so as a people pleaser, you may fall in the category or the trap or the line of, if I please others. I learned when I was younger that, I'm giving you an example here. I personally learned this as well, and many of you may be feeling this, that when you were younger, you learned that if you prioritize others, and if you give them what they need, and you make that very obvious to them, in other words, if you people please, and you give them what they want, and you're a good girl or a good boy, good girl, good boy, and you give them that, and you meet their needs often, and you really go out of your way to do so, you minimize the volatility. See, with people pleasers, often we feel unsafe, or we have felt unsafe in the past. And so there's a lack of consistency. And so one of the ways, it's very natural for us to seek consistency, seek certainty, and seek safety. And one of the ways that we can do that is by ensuring everything and everyone around us is taken care of. And we validate our self-worth, and we validate ourselves, and we also feel safer and more consistent and more certain of our environment by ensuring others are happy, others are impressed, others are taken care of. And so one of the reasons that you may be people-pleasing is to decrease the volatility in your environment and feel safer. And so this woman was attracting men that were volatile and unavailable. And in relationships, she would consistently people-please. She knew she could see the signs of when she needed to leave in a relationship, but she wouldn't leave because she was just trying to continue to please. If I can just please them a little bit more, then maybe I'll feel safer. Leaving wasn't even an option until it sort of became critical, until it became really unsafe, extremely unsafe. And that pattern was a pattern that she was attached to unconsciously, and she was almost addicted to, because it was just part of her makeup, part of her egoic survival throughout her childhood. And at the moment we made that connection, massive light bulb for her. Massive light bulb in the sense that she began to understand herself deeper. She was able to feel some of those feelings that she expressed as a child, where she was maximizing others and minimizing herself, forgetting about what she needed, because it was all about feeling safe. And the way she made herself feel safe was to make others happy, to satisfy their needs. Now, if you're falling in this pattern, in this category, there is a way out. And the way out is to begin to value yourself. Begin to identify what is worthy within you. What value do you bring to relationships and to the world? And how can you nurture yourself, your inner self? How can you reparent yourself to help yourself feel safe and to protect yourself? So you're not seeking it from others by making sure they're more important than you and minimizing your worthiness, but rather you're seeking that protectiveness and that sense of safety and consistency and certainty in yourself. I also suggested she develop certain daily routines, whether it be meditation, whether it be exercising at a particular time, whether it be breath practice, whether it be sitting down and reading a book at a particular time of the day, whether it be an evening routine that was systematic, because that routine, it breeds consistency. Consistency lends itself to certainty. Certainty lends itself to clarity. And clarity opens the door and the heart to confidence. My client this morning was facing issues with confidence as well. And because she was not confident in herself, she placed her confidence and how she derived and felt confident in others. How did she do that? She made sure they were taken care of. She went out of her way to satisfy them and not satisfy herself. Now, after a while, remember, unresolved wounding attracts unresolved wounding. So she is attracting someone that potentially is also taking advantage of that and eating that up and not giving either. And so there's this there's this unresolved wounding that's just butting heads in at play here. And so sometimes if you're a people pleaser, you can really lack confidence. And so again, what can you do on a regular basis? Maybe not introduce novelty into your life. Maybe introduce things that are a little bit scary and move through them, act on them, and begin to develop a sense of confidence. Perhaps surround yourself with people that are safe, that you trust and that you respect and that you revere, and that they can then give you feedback, that you can be vulnerable and open with them and develop a greater sense of confidence, because that practice is exposure, and that exposure is opening your heart up to a new way of being. And so if you're a people pleaser and you're stuck in this pattern, this holding pattern of minimizing yourself, there's a way out. And what we've discussed in this video is an opportunity for you to see yourself in a completely different light and recognize that light within you is worthy and you are valuable. And not only are you valuable and worthy, the world needs you as you are. If you keep giving your power away and giving yourself away, you're dimming yourself and the world will never see you. And they'll never feel your power and feel your presence. Power and blessings to you. I'll see you again soon.